I have a question on the old Belleaire. When the new Belleaire starts being used, will the church restrict the use of old Belleaire to construction traffic only?
No, and I'll let
What?
Ms. Hawk respond to that as some of the reasons why we can't do
Tell
that.
me about that, Ms. Hawk.
Part of it is emergency access. There has to be free flow access for rural metro in the event of an emergency. You still have buildings that are occupied with entrances on that side. And also construction sites have to have emergency access, so there has to be maintained as open for that also.
Well, let me ask the question a different way then. Is the church willing to not use old Belleaire for entering and exiting their property for purposes of school or Sunday school or church services or things of that sort? Could they use the other entrance so that the most of the traffic that's going in and out of the old Belleaire will be construction traffic? And the reason I ask the question is that road's going to remain open. If you have a lot of traffic on there, then for some period of time, there's going to be, after the new Belleaire goes into service, if it should be approved, there will be a variance created by the use of that driveway, which is only 200 feet from the existing driveway, and nobody's asked for a temporary variance there.
No, that's part of what I explained under the price cottages, is that when it's a subdivision, that's what you have to have the traffic impact study to show, to warrant it, and so that's what this traffic study did.
What I'm asking is that I think it would be beneficial for those of us who have to use the new Belleaire to have the old Belleaire, if it's going to remain open, be used for construction traffic and public health and safety vehicles only.
When you started, I thought I knew what the question was. I think I still do. About shutting off existing Belleaire once we have new Belleaire open for traffic. Can we restrict the traffic only to those features or those utilizations you mentioned?
Yeah.
The short answer is no, and I'm going to let him tell you why.
Okay, tell me why.
Yes, it can only be used as construction traffic till a point in time. The reason we can't go ahead and build it like you see it right now is we've got to build what we can build back here in the back before we can tear down space. We can't afford to lose space until we get new space. So for, let's say, a 12-month period, it's going to be construction traffic. And then we're going to have the building that we're constructing right now, which is on the east side of the Old Family Life Center, that's going to open for an interim period while we're still building on to the rear portion of that and the infill between the sanctuary and the Old Family Life Center. So there's going to be a building over there that probably will not have any access, cross access back to the west side because of difference in elevations and basements and things that are going on construction-wise. There's going to be an interim time, and I can't tell you exactly what that period is, that we're going to have to access, at least on Sundays, that building that we're building right now that's under construction. And when everything is built, building-wise, and we can get everybody moved out of the stuff that we're going to tear down, there's going to be a point in time that we're going to be demolishing and building new parking lots and stuff like that will be construction and only be used on pretty much Sunday nights, Sundays anyway. I think we've moved all the school traffic to the west side now. And until we get everything functioning, I don't think the school traffic is going to be moved back, shifted back over there. And I'm probably talking out of school on some of that. On the west, they're keeping it on the west side. So we're talking about minimal traffic, construction only for a certain period, and then some interim traffic on Sundays when
Going
we
to move
use.
the school traffic back to the east side or not? You're not going to move it back at all?
I hate to do this, but please, you need to come to the microphone, or this needs to be,
We are leaving it on the west side until what you see is built, where there's a 400-foot separation in drive.
What's going to happen then?
You're asking the wrong person as far as how,
Well,
we'd have to have an architect here to explain how that traffic.
Have the right person come up here and answer the question.
Well, I don't
because
think
it's
we have
gonna
a right
be really
person
hard
here.
for us to get in and out. If school traffic uses that road, it's a variance.
Okay.
Let Ruth answer for it.
Okay, part of the issue is that, as you well know, this building is under construction. This will be completed and ready for occupancy before you have these actually under construction and going and completed and everything. When that occurs, this access will be cut off. There will be no way to get to this building because of this. It's currently, the grade changes, you know, where those portable buildings were, you went down, you had to go up the steps and everything. That's all going to be under construction, and so this access is going to be cut off when this is all going. And so that interim period, when this building is being occupied before this is all completed, that was the traffic that David was talking about originally. With regards to the school traffic changing, they're not going to change anything back to the west side until after all this is done, because they're really not going to have much parking over there. All they're going to have over there is that little parking lot now that's mostly used for construction staging area right now, which has also some parking spaces. But there's going to be an extended period of time when this is all under construction where this will not be physically able to get through. It'll be a construction zone and will be fenced off. So once that gets completed, and then they can get this building torn down and then put this in, is when the traffic will be permanently removed off of Old Belleaire Drive, and it'll be converted to this location.
Well,
So it's like a staging process because of the whole construction process doesn't
okay,
happen
well, I make my
immediately.
point that at some point there, if we're using that again as an active road, and we have our new road in use again, there's going to be traffic interference there because they're not very far apart. And I think it's behooves the town to take steps in the planning of this to be sure that some arrangement is made so that the users of both those intersections remain safe. I don't think it'll be safe the way it is now if all that traffic goes back to Belleaire temporarily for some period of time. And all I ask is that at an appropriate time, we need to look at that. And I think that I understood what you said, and if I were fast, I probably could draw a schedule, or at least a block diagram, showing how that sequence was going to occur. But that ought to be looked at so that we have a way of ensuring that traffic is safe on those two streets when they're both in use as normal streets. And I ask, do we have to have a variance if that occurs? Because the next two ordinances are going to quit claim land, take right away and quit claim land to the town, to the church.
Part of Ordinance 0805, it spells out the criteria for the closure of the road. And states that an ordinance to close Belleaire Drive beginning at Kingston Pike and ending approximately 1,200 feet to the south of Kingston Pike, with the following stipulations: that First Baptist Church of Concord construct a new Belleaire Drive approximately 220 feet to the east of the existing Belleaire Drive at Kingston Pike and connect back into Belleaire Drive approximately 1,200 feet to the south of Kingston Pike per preliminary plat approved by the Planning Commission. that First Baptist Church of Concord prepare a subdivision plat that dissolves the old Belleaire Drive right-of-way and establishes a new Belleaire Drive and associated right-of-way and easements, which is approved by the Farragut Planning Commission and recorded at the Knox County Register of Deeds office. That upon completion of the construction of the new Belleaire Drive and the recording of the final plat, the town of Farragut relinquish ownership of the old Belleaire Drive right-of-way through quitclaim deed to First Baptist Church of Concord, and that access First Baptist Church of Concord to Kingston Pike from the old Belleaire Drive is temporary, and that this access shall be eliminated at such time when the old buildings, flat tops and A-frame, located immediately to the east of the old sanctuary are demolished. At that time, a new driveway to line up with Rustgate Boulevard shall be constructed, and the existing driveway located immediately to the west of the old church sanctuary shall be eliminated. The old buildings are to be eliminated as shown on the master concept plan. And what that is saying is this will be constructed, and then this current driveway here will also be eliminated, along at the same time as the existing Belleaire Drive would be eliminated.
Okay, so that piece of discussion is for the next two ordinances.
Yeah, it'd be, I mean, if it needs to be reworded, or however we can reword
The
that,
next-
but that was
okay.
that's the intent behind that ordinance, is to establish that this is a temporary situation.
That's all I have. Does anybody have any further questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Jones.
Bob Jones, 305 Crestview. I was just wondering if there was any kind of calculations as far as the number of variances that will have to be granted to complete the project. Is this just like the new Belleaire and the old Belleaire? Is that the only variance you're going to have to worry about, or it just kind of give us an idea of, like, has there been any calculations made as far as that goes? That's the only question I got.
There's actually not any variances that I'm aware of at this time, and I know that David said that they were not intending on requesting the variance for the underground utilities, so.
You've essentially incorporated a variance into the wording of that ordinance, so
Right,
to
but
allow
under our
temporary
ordinance,
use.
it's not classified as a
Yeah.
variance because of the way it's written with the traffic impact study. It's not like a separate action that the planning commission or the board of mayor and aldermen has to take action on.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask David a question? David, where can we put the Belleaire subdivision sign? How about to the east of the new road, right on Kingston Pike?
I mean, if it's allowed to go on church property, we can put it, we had talked about doing some kind of entrance fence on both corners, like a normal subdivision, like you went in Andover or something like that.
Good, okay. Residents, I mean, does that sound good? This is being addressed, that you have an entrance that befits the character of your neighborhood on church property at the entrance to the new Belleaire Drive. David,
That's something the board of mayor and aldermen will.
you were in the visibility triangle. Do what now, Ruth?
I was going to say, because that would be considered an off-premise sign, realistically, it should be on the right-of-way so that, like what you did with Linda Heights, or on the east side, like you suggested, where you don't have the visibility triangle problem because you won't be running into a parking lot, something like that. But I think it's something kind of action that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, or depending on where it's located, the Board of Zoning Appeals would have to review, both of which I think obviously are in favor of it from the standpoint this has been discussed fairly extensively, but depending on where it's put, it would be similar to like the Linda Heights.
We'll work with you if we have to convey some property to make a sign work or anything like that. I know you don't want me to subdivide a piece for a sign, but I knew what that look was for, but we'll work with you
Work with
however
it.
we need to work with you.